The G20 Summit has ended and the mega diplomacy event saw a very important transcontinental corridor being announced. I'm talking about the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, or the IMEC. This is what many are pegging as an ode to the ancient spice route. Dating back thousands of years to around 2000 BC, the map on your screen now reflects what the old trade route used to look like. Passing through historical cities of Asia, Northeast Africa and Europe, the route which connected India with West Asian nations and Europe was linked through different trading centers along the way. Cinnamon, cardamom, ginger and turmeric were important items during the earliest evolution of trade, and therefore it gave the name of the spice route to this route. It was a major export facilitator for India, China, Indonesia and several West Asian nations. Eventually, the advent of the European sea routes had a significant impact on global trade. It cut down on the time taken for goods to go from ports in India's Gujarat to European nations. And now the ambitious multinational corridor is being touted as the 21st century spice route. The project includes India, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, the EU, member countries naturally France, Italy, Germany and the United States. The corridor will include a rail link, an electricity cable, a hydrogen pipeline as well as a high-speed data cable. The newly proposed trade corridor seeks to revive the age-old spice route, and it is divided in two phases. The first one is called the Eastern Corridor. It will connect the Indian port of Mundra on the west coast of India with the Fujairah port in the UAE. The containers will then be transported by rail via Saudi Arabia and Jordan to the Israeli port of Haifa. And after this, the Western Corridor will take Indian goods to Marseille in France and ports in Italy and Greece. This, of course, was the big announcement coming from the G20 Summit that wrapped up in India's capital, New Delhi. And, of course, it made headlines. It's called the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, or IMEC. It's also being seen as a healthy alternative to China's Belt and Road Initiative. And now several experts are comparing it to the ancient spice route, given the significance it carries in linking different ports and the volume of trade that is expected to pass through. It is an ambitious multinational corridor and it is being touted as a 21st century spice route. The countries involved are India, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, EU member countries, that is France, Italy, Germany and the United States. It was announced at the G20 Summit in New Delhi at a press conference between India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the US President Joe Biden. The corridor will include a rail link, an electricity cable, a hydrogen pipeline, as well as a high-speed data cable. And to talk more about the significance of this route, joining me now is Navdeep Singh Suri, who is a former ambassador of India to the UAE. Ambassador, welcome to WION yet again.
Pleasure.
Ambassador, tell us about the significance of this deal announced at the G20 Summit, and also for our viewers' sake, breaking down as to why it matters for both you and I.
Well, it matters because it creates an alternate route for trade to Europe. Remember, the European Union is one of our largest trading partners. Currently, the only way that our goods go to Europe is via the Suez Canal. When the Suez Canal was interrupted by that Evergrande ship, we saw the disruption that it caused to supply chains and to trade. In this case, this is not only an alternate route, but it's also a faster route. Currently, it takes 18 or so days for a container to leave from, say, Mumbai or Mundra or Kandla to reach a port like Piraeus in Europe, in Greece. This route could cut down that transit to about 10 days. So it's a 40% saving for our exporters and importers. But I think it's, you need to conceptualize this as a route that goes beyond trade. They are looking at it as a multimodal connect, which takes goods from ships to a railroad, but also that railroad, the railway track, is accompanied by fiber optic for data connectivity. It's accompanied by pipelines for green hydrogen. So you're looking at a completely different paradigm for connecting India with Europe
Right.
through the Middle East.
Absolutely. Now, the US President Joe Biden described this plan as a game-changing investment in the region. How do you view that statement?
I think he's right about it. The Americans are clearly putting a lot of energy into it. The Americans have a reason which is different, perhaps, from that of the countries in the region like Saudi Arabia or UAE or Jordan, who are partners. The Americans want to create an alternative to BRI. They are currently engaged in a major strategic competition with China. And they don't want China to occupy the space in West Asia, which has traditionally been their dominant space. For us, coincidentally, it suits us because we are also in a contest with China.
Right.
And so there's a happy coincidence of interests between the United States and India. And the countries in West Asia also are happy about it because it gives them additional options for connectivity. You know, I was at this Invest Saudi forum today and the India-Saudi Investment Forum. And it was interesting to hear the Saudis talk about themselves as future kind of superpowers when it comes to green hydrogen, because they've got abundant desert land that comes at no cost virtually. They've got 365 days of sun a year. And they think that they can do green hydrogen cheaper than anyone else. So if that's the fuel of the future, away from the fossil fuels of today, then you are looking at Saudis being very interested in a proposal that allows them to export green hydrogen through the same pipelines into Europe.
Right. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.